Okay. All right, so first of all, I want to thank everyone who's here. I know that it's kind of inclement weather out there, and I was a little bit daunted driving down here that there might be a snowstorm. Which I come from LA, so and London doesn't really have that much snow. Maybe the time of Dickens, but not so much now. I want to thank everybody who's here. You know, I'm never worried about a small audience, just for the record. So and I never am, because you know some of the great Kabbalists, because you know this is very special information that we're learning. This is more than just information; it's energy, and people know inherently if they can't handle it. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur are very powerful holidays. We're going to talk a little bit about them, a lot about them today. And the foundation work, you could see yesterday on Shabbat that there were people who were like, that's a little bit much for me, and that's not an unnatural or even an expected or wrong response, because this is more than just information. This is energy, and if you can't handle it, too much energy, sometimes it's good to say no. Sometimes it's all right. And the greatest teachers in Kabbalah had one student, two students, and those students would deliver that. So the Arizal, who you've heard me speak about, who lived around 500 years ago, he had one student. He didn't want a bunch of other students. He had one student. That was Rabbi Chaim Vital, who took down everything that he wrote and wrote it down. And I would say this because I have a teacher who was very sad that he couldn't get more students. And I explained to him, I said, and this is a very lofty, he ran the Lubavitch School in London for 40 years. And I said to him, I said, you know, and I reminded him about Chaim Vital. And I said, you know, the fact that you have 3 students, that's okay. It's okay, because those people will disseminate this information, and maybe not even maybe not on as lofty a level. Now you have somebody like Rabbi Akiva, who had 10,000 students. And Rabbi Akiva was considered the greatest soul who ever lived, by none other than Moshe Rabbeinu, according to the Zohar. So I'm never worried about a small turnout, because it's the seeds that you plant. There's a Hebrew word for it, a Hebrew term. Can everybody hear me, by the way?
Yes.
It's called harishah, planting seeds. Think of Johnny Appleseed, great California reference, but So this is wonderful. I mean, that's the reason I don't mind doing one-on-one teaching as well. I figure it's very powerful. And the fact that a student can pick up anything is remarkable, because this is lofty stuff. Make no mistake. This is they describe Kabbalah and the other 3 that we were talking about, Pardes, the orchard, right? The idea of an orchard, but it's also an acronym for Peshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. Peshat is the literal, Remez is the hints, the gleanings, the allegorical, the Drash is the metaphorical, and then Sod is the secrets. So it's like a candle. You have the wax, you have the wick, and I don't know if there's the third element specifically, but then you have the flame, and the flame is the Sod. It's the purpose of it all, and it's the thing that brings it all together. And like I said, it's the purpose. So I want to start today by telling you about 2 people you've probably heard of. Yesterday, somebody said to me, I forget who it was, I don't know if you're in this room, said, like Rabbi, he said, standing on one leg.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, standing on one leg. And I always think of when I was giving the tour of Mom and your house. Really, I was there for about 6 months, and then they moved with me, and they took me with them. I was only 6 months old, and I wasn't that difficult a kid. And we did a little tour of this place, a walking tour, you know, for the Disney fans, and it's called Walking with Giants, because there was a song that from Mary Poppins, a man has dreams of walking with giants. So I called it Walking with Giants, and it's the Sherman brothers tour. You want me here? No, it's okay. We're good. We're good. I'm sorry to pick up on things. We're supposed to have the psychic connection. He's doing his job. I'm not doing mine.
Is that quite set in yet?
No, not quite. And so this thing, and she had a parrot, and anybody who knows me knows I write all these things about birds, parrots, and penguins, and flamingos, and my musicals that I write. And and the parrot's name was Hillel. She was an Orthodox woman and in her nineties, and I thought it was very funny because a parrot stands on one leg. And so when she said this thing, I said, "What do you think I am, a parrot?" Anyway, so like Hillel. So Hillel was a great rabbi who lived 2,000 years ago. And he actually led a school of, this is the formative time of the Talmud and the formative times of specifically Mishnah, and also the formative times of the Sanhedrin had been in existence for a long time, which included 70 great sages, and Hillel was the Rosh Sanhedrin. We're going to come back to this word Rosh because it's very significant in what we're talking about here in the understanding of Kabbalah when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh, and all these other significant things. And why is it Rosh? He was the Rosh Sanhedrin. He was the head of the Sanhedrin. The vice head of the Sanhedrin was a man named Rabbi Shammai. Now, most people don't realize, they think they're these two old men. No, Shammai was a young guy. He was in his mid-20s. And anything Shammai said, or Hillel said, they seem to always be in opposition. Right? Always were in opposition. Now, I'm going to teach you something that you probably know. And the thing is, and the Talmud says very clearly, if you think that they were in disagreement, or you believe that Hillel didn't agree with Shammai, or Shammai didn't agree with Hillel, either you don't understand Shammai, or you don't understand Hillel, or you don't understand, and more likely, you don't understand either one of them. And do you know the answers to why? Because I'm curious if anybody.
I would guess it's because they're both looking for the greater good, even though they're coming at it from different directions.
That's absolutely true, but it's absolutely true. But I'm so glad you didn't hit the point that I was going to tell you. But you're 100% right. It was taking the scheme out. It was taking the scheme out. No, but she's 100% right. They were both looking for the greater good. It's arguing, and there's a concept in Judaism called arguing for the sake of heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know it's arguing for the sake of heaven because the people don't get angry with each other. It's when they get angry that there's ego involved and there's this thing. And this is a very significant thing. You know, we Jews have, probably the most famous title, the most overused title, still apropos in any Jewish thing is 2 Jews, 3 opinions.
Right.
Yeah, right.
10 Jews, 11 opinions, this idea. And I've been to more lectures with that title. And it's true because we're all supposed to have brains and use our brains and have opinions. There's a very interesting thing about point of view versus perspective. Most people conflate the two terms of point of view and perspective, but actually they're very different. A point of view is a single point of view. Perspective is when you have multiple points of view, maybe 2 or more, and that creates perspective. So, the old game when you were a kid, if you close one eye and you put your 2 fingers in front of you and one slightly in front and one slightly behind, you can't tell which is closer and which one's further away. You remember this game when you were kids. And the thing is that it's only when you have 2 eyes that you can actually have perspective. And this is the same with Hillel and Shammai, is these 2 perspectives. So the idea that they respected each other's point of view, liberal, conservative, even if you take one perspective, one point of view versus another, to respect the 2 points of view and realize that the truth isn't what you see. The truth isn't what I see. The truth is combining the 2. This is Zoharic. This is from the Holy Zohar that says truth is not what you see. Truth is not what I see. Truth is the process of figuring out how what you see and what I see are combined. So 2 people are sitting in a cafe in Paris, and one is looking out on the street, and he says, "I see a person sitting, and the candle is to the right side, and behind you is the Parisian street with all the cars." I said, "No, nonsense. You know nothing. What the truth is, what I see, which is that the candle's on the left side, and the person is is in front of me and there's a window behind the person. So no, the truth is that there's two people sitting at a table, right? So this is the idea. It's the pursuit of finding how the opposite opinion of yours is also the way a Jewish court works. They don't have one judge. They have three, not two, three, because they need to have a minority opinion and a majority opinion. When they take witnesses in a court case, in a Jewish court, and that's very specific type of a court, that's called the Bet Din, House of Judgment, a court. And they resolve things. They resolve things. If two people are, say, witnesses to, God forbid, a murder, and they say identical things, you discount it. It's actually part of the law that you discount it because it must be correct. Everybody sees things slightly differently. Might be a small detail. No, it was a green dress. No, it was a blue dress. But if they say it was a green dress and there are 100 details that are the same, that evidence has to be thrown out because it must have been tampered with. Nobody sees exactly the same thing, and that's part of Jewish law. Two brothers cannot be a witness on the same document. Two brothers
That's
cannot.
good.
Yeah, well, no, I do think, although I do think my brother and I would have different points of view, but,
It's a family issue. Did you see that?
Can you believe a Jewish family has arguments? I've never heard of such a thing. But the idea is, and built into our religion though, is this idea of understanding that dialogue and dialectic. You know, it's funny when you watch a Bet Midrash, a house of learning, Bet and Midrash, learning more. We talked about Drash in the Pardes acronym. A house of learning more. This idea that you see the students discussing with each other. The idea, there's even a section in the time of the creation of the Talmud was this idea of these, what they call twins, and these two people opposing and discussing and taking different sides, debate. And the great Socratic document is the Talmud, ironically, because we associate Socrates with the Greeks, of course, because he was Greek. 5th century Greek, but the reality is that the great Socratic document was in fact the Talmud. So we have these two men, Hillel and Shammai. Now I want to give you a couple examples of what Hillel and Shammai disagreed on. Hanukkah. Hillel said, on the first night of Hanukkah, you light one candle. On the second night, you light two. On the third, and then on the 8th night, our father's birthday, by the way, is Zot Hanukkah. This is Hanukkah, which I always joke. You always say, this is Hanukkah. Maybe the guy said, this is Hanukkah? Anyway, 8 candles and a donut, give me a break. No, but this is Hanukkah. Zot Hanukkah, and the idea is that the light is revealed, that all of the light of Hanukkah is truly revealed on Zot Hanukkah on the 8th night, which usually falls on the 2nd day of the Hebrew month of Tibet. This year it was the 3rd day, and that has to do with calendar reconciliation and a shorter month of Kislev, in case anybody was wondering, because it always starts on the 25th of Kislev. Shammai, though, said, no, it's not going to be. You start on the 25th of Kislev, 8 candles, and then it's the second night, 7 candles, and then 6, and then on what the Hillelites would call the Zot Hanukkah, wasn't Zot Hanukkah. Zot Hanukkah was the first night. And then you land with 1, and then it's over. So it's diminishing. How do you reconcile these two things? How can they be in disagreement so much? I mean, this seems like they're opposite. It's one or the other. How do you reconcile it? Another example is the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. Is everybody familiar with Tu B'Shvat? Because when I was a kid, raised Reform, I didn't know this thing existed.
But we said boxes.
Yeah. You were paying better attention. I was waiting. There's no donuts on Tu B'Shvat. There's no lemon passion. I didn't know. Yeah, that's true. So Tu B'Shvat is, as you must know, is the Rosh Hashanah for the trees. And the reason it's called Tu B'Shvat, just like Tu B'Av, is because Tu is Tet, the letter Tet, which is the numerical value of 9, and the Vav, which is a numerical value of 6. The reason it's not Yud and then the letter Hey is because that's the first 2 letters of the tetragrammaton, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And we don't use the Lord's name in vain. So instead of 10 plus 5, it's 9 plus 6. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why we call it Tuba, and it's the middle of the month. Right? It's the middle of the month, the 15th day of the month. Comes along, that's Hillel. Then that's why we call it Tu B'Shvat. But by the way, we almost always go with Hillel, not Shammai. Shammai said, no. First of the first of Shavuot, the month of Shavuot, Aquarius. By the way, next week would be the first of Shavuot. It falls on Thursday or Friday. I think it's Thursday. It is Thursday, the 11th. This 11th of June. And he said that is the Rosh Hashanah for the trees. Rosh Chodesh Shabbat, not the 15th, not the 15th. We go with Hillel. It's Tu B'Shvat. That's why we don't call it Olive Shabbat. Right. The third example I'll give you is the standing on one leg story. The convert comes to Hillel and he says, standing on one leg, tell me the whole thing of the Torah. And Hillel says to the student very nicely, he says, don't do unto others as you wouldn't have done unto you. He said it in the negative, not the positive, which is obviously more grammatically correct by modern English standards. But he said, do not do unto others as you would not have done to you. The rest is commentary. Now go and learn through. What I bet you didn't know is that Shammai, the same convert went to Shammai. And Shammai said, standing on one leg, tell me what the essence of the Torah is. Shammai took a big stick, chased after the guy, and tried to hit him. What's going on? How are these two philosophers? How is it the same? How is it that these two men? I tell you other things, but Shammai was a real extreme guy. Shammai, during Sukkot, his wife was about to give birth. And so he built a sukkah over, he tore out the roof where she couldn't be moved. He tore out the roof of their house and then put a scoff over his, where his wife was going to be born, because he didn't want for 1 minute that the mitzvah of Sukkot, so beautiful a mitzvah, should be missed by his soon to be born child. This is a pretty extreme guy, this Shammai guy. Hillel's a little bit more laid back. Any takers? Anybody have any ideas why Hillel and Shammai where were they coming from, and what was the how is it that they were saying the same, that they weren't actually in disagreement? How is that possible? Any takers? When I learned this, I was blown away by it. I mean, this is an amazing revelation to me. This to me is like a Kabbalistic secret, except that it's not considered a Kabbalistic secret. It just was mind blowing because I never heard anybody explain this. And you think, is this something that was a secret? What's so special? And people say, well, you can't understand. No, you can understand this. This is not hard. If I can understand it, trust me. So I'm not going to need to take your. Well, we'll come back. No, I'll tell you the answer. I was hoping you knew. I was looking for the answer. No, it's okay. So let's discuss this. So we talked about Hanukkah, Tu B'Shvat. We talked about Hanukkah. First night, Shammai says all the light is revealed on the first night, and then it diminishes. We talked about Tu B'Shvat. Well, what happens on the 15th day of the month? Anybody know?
Full moon.
Exactly. And that brings me to what will be something we're going to discuss more. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, the statement is dead center in the Torah.
Oh, is it? What?
So,
Which statement?
do unto others, as you would yourself.
But don't
It's
do
dead
it.
center we just covered this in Torah study, and it's it's right in the middle. If you count all the pages on either side,
Oh, is that right?
it's dead center. So
In verses or in letters or in in columns? Because they do separate them in.
it's Leviticus 19, verse 18,
Okay,
and it's right at the end. So it's just before you start 1919.
wow.
And so in answer to your question, if it's halfway through, I can see it's balanced. The Torah is balanced in two different directions. You can, with not only with interpretations, but I think you could envision that you could make the statement both ways and be correct. As a negative or a positive.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. Don't do unto others. I think that, personally, I think that was more just a linguistic thing.
Yeah.
But I think there's a deeper significance to the negative as well, which I'll get to, but that's amazing. I didn't know it was in the middle.
I don't know, but I thought I heard that, like, we say amen after everything, that the MN, that's the exact middle of the Hebrew alphabet. Is that true? That's what I remember hearing.
Amen, the word amen is a very interesting word because it has the gematria of 91. Aleph is 1,
Right.
mem is 40, nun is 50, so adds up to 91. That's how many days there are. That's how many days there are in a season, 91. But more interesting than that is that there are two names of God. What was that?
That's how many indictments there are against Trump.
Amen. Hallelujah. Sorry. This is not a political conversation. And the prosecutor's name is Tanya, by the way.
Exactly.
But order, I'm gonna have to come to you with a big stick. I'm gonna have to surmise it. Okay, so this is, Tu B'Shvat, and you hit on the point I was looking for, but this has all been very informative to me. And that is that you have Rosh Chodesh. We're the only faith that actually understands, and we're going to discuss this in more detail, the significance of Rosh Chodesh versus full moon. Rosh Chodesh, there's no moon. Remember what we said. Revealing is concealing. Even a seed, in order for that seed, which isn't very revealed, must be concealed in the ground. And if you keep on looking at the seed, it won't grow. It needs to be concealed. And same with human life and animal life. There needs to be this aspect of concealing to reveal. That's the upside down nature of this world. So this is the thing. So you have Hillel, but we live in a world where things are revealed. So the full moon is the full revelation of the moon. So this is a clue, and this is the clue that Tu B'Shvat, the Rosh Hashanah for trees, is for us is revealed on the full moon. So why was Shammai then saying it's the first day of Hanukkah and the first of the month when there's nothing? Because Shammai was talking about the world to come, or the world of Mashiach. When Mashiach is here, you think a good thought, you'll be rewarded. It'll be right now. Hanukkah's now. So Hanukkah now, right now. I'm thinking of Hanukkah right now. Do a bad thing, arm will come off. The idea of but we don't. But the problem with that world for us right now is that there's no free choice. In the world of Mashiach, we're going to be robots of the light, you might say. Because the free choice, who's going to do a bad thing? Who's going to steal anything if your arm's going to immediately fall off the minute you steal? The tension is that we're getting closer and closer to that. So there's not this grace period. So that's why it feels like it's so much tension in the air. People get away with stuff before. Now, maybe it's happening in, 5. Now it's happening in, I wasn't sure whether you're saying people are getting away with things. And anyway, so hello. So this is This is the secret. This is why they didn't disagree, because Shammai was saying the same thing. He's just saying it from the frame of reference of Mashiach, the world to come. And they understood this. And that's why their schools didn't disagree with each other. And the reason we follow Hillel is because we don't live in the age of Mashiach yet. We're not there yet. When Hillel, so comes along this convert who's actually saying something, I'll use an English word, very cheeky. He says, standing to the great Hillel, he says, this newbie comes in and he's standing on one foot. What do you do the Torah? And he says, don't do unto others as you would not have done unto you. Now, the rest is commentary. Now go and learn. Whereas Shammai just takes a stick and says, how dare you come? You're gonna come to me with disrespect. I'm gonna come to you with this. I'll come to you with a stick. Don't do that. They both were educating. They're saying the same thing, but from a different reference point. And that's the thing that we as Jews understand. Our cousins don't understand that as much. They see the other side as being evil. Shammai wasn't evil. Shammai was just coming from a different, more, I want my son or my daughter to have all of the light of Sukkot right now. Hillel's like, yes.
You touched on something before too. Why did he say, do not do unto others?
Right.
Rather than do?
Yeah.
Why
Why
not
not?
insert? And my Christian friends very often ask me that very question. Why are you Jews so negative? And I said, what do you mean? And well, you say, do not, don't, instead of do.
Well, now you know. That's my opinion anyways. I don't.
I was gonna say, I think it's because the insertion of not, I mean, this is just my opinion, it's not that I learned it anywhere. I always had the feeling that the not was inserted because it gives you a little extra pause before you jump into an impulse and answer an impulse. That was the only thing I came up with. It wasn't what you just said.
Well, I do think that there's something, when you have, there are things like there are positive and there are negative precepts. One of the examples I like to give, and I was talking, I don't know who I was saying this to this week, but the idea of like there's a positive precept of the 613 precepts that one should get a get. Now, they're not saying it's, if you get it, everybody who's happily married should get a divorce. But there's tremendous, why is it a positive precept? And this is a commentary that's made. Why is it a positive precept to get a divorce paper? By the way, very interesting. The letters Gimel and Tet never appear next to each other in the Torah. The 60,000 letters or whatever it is of the Torah. They never appeared. They're always apart from each other, which is what a divorce getting the get. And when a soldier would go, before he would go off into the army, we know this from the story of King David, when he would go into when a soldier would go into the army, they would write a get for their wives. One of the big problems you have in the Orthodox community is that women are, men hold the get hostage.
Yeah.
And this is a major problem in the Orthodox community and brought really been a political issue, a hot button issue. And I know people personally, women personally, who were held hostage by their awful exes who used that. It's just unfair. But the idea of getting the get, think about the spiritual, it's not easy, but think about the revelation. Those of you who've been divorced, think about how much you grew as a person. It may not have been easy. I'm not saying it's easy or desirable. But maybe but it's not a bad thing either, because think about how you grew spiritually from that process, how you became more mature. And that's, after all, kind of the reason we're here. So Hillel and Shammai, and that's literally, I want to move on because we do have other points. I've got about 8 things I want to discuss. This is number 1, okay?
Not in this group.
I know. Except I charge you next time I come. So this gives a perspective that I wanted to just share with you, because I think it's an amazing thing that just the idea that things that are disagreements actually maybe the real truth Look at the truth we've uncovered by looking at these two opposite things and finding how they're unified. Isn't that an amazing thing? And that's, the truth is finding truth, and same thing with love. It's a verb, it's not a noun. I want to talk to you now. These are all going to be interconnected. And this is, by the way, I think this is, everything I've given you before in the last 2 days really is primer for what we're going to discuss. So we have I want to discuss with you on this, you remember we were talking about the four phases, I'm sorry, we were talking about the 10 sefirot. There's a lot of numbers in this, and these are all, 10 is a special number, 7 is a special, the 13 attributes, the 5. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about this. There are two concepts. There's macrocosm of the sefirot and microcosm. Microcosm is our realm, the physical realm. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I gotta go get my car insurance renewed. I gotta go talk to the termite guy. That's the process. This is microcosm. This is our world with limitations and those kinds of things. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to probably pass this around. I'm going to let you see this over here. I've done this up. This is the same document, but you'll see in my red pen here. First of all, let me talk you through it. It'll be easier if I can see it as well. So it says here, you have at the top, you have Keter, Chochmah, Binah. Remember, Keter is the seed of the seed. It's before the physical. It's before, it's the idea. It's before the inspiration. The inspiration, the lightning bolt of inspiration is Chochmah. And then you have Binah, which is the actual you grasping that. Oh my God, I've got a great idea. So it's like bang, bang, bang. It's very instantaneous because we're up on the top. There's very little time, space, and motion. Remember, it's like the Big Bang. Before the Big Bang, all of that stuff, even time itself had not yet expanded. And all time was in one instant. Even an instant is too much of a time frame. And it's hard to get your hands around it because it's metaphysical. It's beyond the physical. So it's a tricky thing to understand. Now, I'm going to use two terms, and you're going to hear these two terms as you study mysticism. One is the 4 phases, and then the other term is the 5 worlds. They're the same thing, sort of. If you think of a flight of stairs, let's say you're on a phase, though. So this is the idea. A phase is a temporary phase. My daughter, she's 13 years old. She's going through a phase. But a world has a more permanent, a level. It exists. It's there. So the idea is that Keter is that no time, no space, no motion world. Right? The first phase is like a first step. So that's why, so if you have Keter, if you include that, the world of Keter, the world of Chochmah, the world of Binah, and then you'll see this group here. So you have the first phase, the first change is Chochmah, that lightning bolt. And I'll pass this around so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Then, and this I only have listed the phases because if I wrote more on here, it would just make it more confusing. Then you have these 6 here. Remember what we were talking about in here. And so you have Hesed, Geburah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. That's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then that's all called Ze'er Anpin. That's the microcosm. That's our world, our finite world. And Ze'er Anpin literally means, and it's amazing, the idea of microcosm and macrocosm. You have these concepts, and I'll show you the connection. The microcosm, they were talking about this 500 years ago, the Kabbalists were. That blows me away, by the way. I mean, just to appreciate that they were talking about this 500 years ago, 800 years ago, likely 2,000 years ago and 2,500 years ago, at the time that Abraham the patriarch revealed document first shows up, and we have documents from 2,500 years ago, the Book of Formation. So you have the 5 worlds, which is Keter is 1. You have Chochmah, which is 2. You have, and I don't expect you to memorize this or anything, I'll show you this, and then Binah is 3, and then Ze'er Anpin, which literally means the small face, is the inclusion of all of this thing. It's like a tree growing, right? You have the bark, you have the roots, and then and it's coming out of the seed. It's the process, what you could call Ze'er Anpin, the process. I had the great idea to build this building. Now I'm gonna build it. Now I'm gonna get my bricks and get my wood, and I'm gonna get construction help. And then the opening day that you open up the building, that's Malchut. That's the fruit of your labors. And that's the 4th phase. In the Yud K Vav K, and I'll pass this around here so you can all sort of look. This just lists the phases. But you understand that the first stage isn't a phase. That's why they call it world. It's a. So you could have it where it's just that Keter is the first world, and that's the world about what Adam Kadmon. Chochmah is second world, and Binah, and then you have Ze'er Anpin, which is the macrocosm is 5 different levels, 5 different worlds. The macrocosm is Keter. Chochmah is the second. Binah is the 3rd level, 3rd world. I'm using world and level as equal terms in this case. And then those 6 sphirot in the middle, that's phase 3, but it's world 4. And then the 5th world in that case is Malchut. So we're talking about the same things when we talk about the 4 phases and the 5 worlds, but you understand that, does that make sense? I know it's a lot of information and we can discuss it more. Yeah, please.
The other day you talked about Chesed, Gevurah, and Teper as the potential.
Yes.
And Yeshua and Yesod as the magnification, but you now put them all into one.
So two things. Remember, we've only been talking about Ze'er Anpin, the small thing. Now we're talking about the macrocosm. The macrocosm is a thing called Arich Anpin. That's the ancient terminology for macrocosm, the big picture. And I'll explain this. This will become a little bit more clear. I do realize this is a lot, and especially because these are new terms. But you're right. So you're 100% right, though. What Ricky was saying is that Hesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet is the triangle of potential. This is the Jewish people. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're the chariot potential. They didn't lead millions or thousands of people. They led maybe tens, hundreds of people. They were the originators of this country, and they brought that potential into Egypt. You know, there's a very interesting thing that's happened historically. When Jews are in a place, they bring a lot of potential to that place. Neighborhoods go up when Jews are there, when Jews leave. And this is, you can see this in Egypt, because the Middle Kingdom ended with the Jews leaving. And it's a metaphysical. Yeah, well,
Drag them all, but you know.
yeah, too soon. Anyway, I think, and then the triangle of manifestation. Oh, great, thanks. Thanks so much. The triangle of manifestation is Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. But all of those 6 combined, this is going to get even more interesting. All of those 6 combined is Ze'er Anpin, the small face. That's what Ze'er Anpin means. It's the microcosm. And it directly correlates with the macrocosm. And when you can understand that correlation, you start to understand the bigger picture here. So, and I realize there's a lot to digest, and hopefully you'll give me an opportunity to follow up with you in 6 months. And you say, Rob, I still don't understand what the heck you were talking about. So the macrocosm is connected, and there's 5 levels. You have Keter, Chochmah, Binah, Ze'er Anpin, that's the package of 6. And then Malchut, again, that's the macro. The micro, Ze'er Anpin. The big face, the small face. Macro, micro. Now, how is Hesed, which is in the micro, which is in Ze'er Anpin, how is Hesed connected to Keter? Well, it's on our world, Hesed is water. It's the idea of sharing. It's the idea, but in the macro sense, Keter is the seed of the seed. It's pre-Big Bang. It's just before the Tzimtzum. So you can see now how Keter it's going to expand into everything. It's from God. It's going to expand into everything. So that's Hesed. It's sharing, it's imparting, but it's on the macro. Does that make sense? Okay, so now let's look at Gevurah. Gevurah is Chokhmah. Now remember, I said yesterday that there is higher judgment, right? And that's higher judgment is Chokhmah. And higher judgment, and you said, well, Robbie, that's right column. Well, it's right column relative to Binah and to everything else, Chokhmah as this is. By the way, does anybody need some more of these? Because I do have a few of these sheets. Maybe it'd be easier. Oh, you have them out there. That's good. Okay. I just want to make sure. And because I do have, I thought I did. Anyways, so it sounds like you have. So Gevurah is lower judgment, and Gevurah is when things seem like they're bad. A divorce is not pleasant. This is you're at a time. Illness, not pleasant. But Chokhmah and Chokhmah is, remember, this is the first exertion from Tzimtzum. It's the first. So from God's point of view, from the macro point of view, this is, time, space, and motion is not really a great thing because it's the separation of the vessel from the light, temporary. So you have this, but Chokhmah being up higher judgment. When we're in Chokhmah, it's once a year. It's for 10 days. It's the days of awe, right? Again, archaic language, the days of awe. Our entire world, metaphysically speaking, is lifted up to Binah and Chokhmah. Yeah, so we're bringing this entire period up. So this is why you have to be good. These are 10 days, you don't misbehave, because we're in a lofty place. The whole world is being brought up to this level. And that's why these are days of judgment. It's higher frame judgment. And that's why it's connected to Gevurah. But higher frame judgment, what do we learn? It says it's not bad judgment. Yes, we have to be careful. We have to feel that sense of awe, hence the days of awe. But it's not a negative thing. At the end of Yom Kippur, it's actually forbidden to feel like, oh boy, I didn't do enough. I didn't think enough. You're not supposed to think that. You're supposed to say, no, God loves me, and He's giving me that judgment. He's giving me judgment that I should have. It's Mashiach level judgment. The judge says you're owed $1 million. Bang, give him the $1 million. And so it's not necessarily, judgment doesn't have to be a bad thing, but you got to behave yourself, right? So that's what happens in those 10 days. Then when we get to the lower frame, we're in the frame of mercy, and that's what Sukkot is all about, is tasting. It's a little bit like this, and this is my big New Year's, my Rosh Hashanah and other Hagim lecture, but in a few sentences. Elul is the month of tshuva and repentance and all of that stuff, and then you have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, where you and it's 10 days, so it's connected to the 10 Sfirot and very closely connected. But again, that's a longer lecture. And then Yom Kippur is the Malchut of that time of judgment, and then you receive all the light at Ne'ilah, the final prayer. Notice that there are 5 levels. They are the 5 levels during Yom Kippur, 5 feasts. And it's a good way to put off feeling hungry, by the way, on Yom Kippur, is to think about your feasting in a non-physical realm. That's why people ask, why no leather shoes? Well, leather draws energy. That's why we use for a sacred Torah. We use the skin of an animal. Skin has a lot of desire to receive it. That's why we don't use perfume on those days, same like Tisha B'Av, but for a positive reason. And so the idea of no leather shoes, you can wear a leather belt. Why no shoes? Shoes are on the feet. Feet are malchut. We don't want to connect to the physical realm on Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur is the day of malchut, but in the upper levels, in the macrocosm. It's a very mystical day, Yom Kippur. And we have 5 levels. We go from the first Friday, the Yom Kippur night, we have the prayer of, what's the prayer with breaking the vows, annulling vows? It's called,
That's right.
yeah, it's right at the very beginning, and then you do 3 verses, and it's called, not Ne'ilah, it's called, it doesn't matter, we all know it.
He's
Yeah,
gonna find out.
but it's a very interesting thing, because on a metaphysical level, people who don't come to shul all year long, they need to hear this annulment of vows. It's a strange thing, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense though, because the soul understands that vows are like borrowing against the future. And we need to annul those vows because otherwise we have vessels that have not yet been cleansed, because you get this prepayment, and that can create a blockage for receiving the light you need on Elul. Ricky,
Vows are, what did you just say, against the future?
when you make a vow, the reason you're to make a vow,
Yeah.
let's say, I am going to lose
Oh,
20 pounds. I am going to do whatever the vow is,
okay,
right? I'm gonna do,
but
you
that,
get an immediate.
I always
boost
thought
benefit.
it was the vows, we were negating the vows that we made in the past.
That's right. You're negating the vow, and to other people as well. And the reason you do that is because, again, this is a longer lecture, and
Okay.
it's, I do this, I have a whole spiel for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the other holidays. And I don't want to get bogged into this, but,
Okay.
and there's time. But we have to do this thing, it's because, so that first set of prayers, and it's bugging me that I don't remember, but come please don't.
Kol Nidre.
Kol Nidre, thank you. Perfect, you get a star, you get a gold star. So Kol Nidre literally means every vow. We'll come back to Kol Nidre, by the way, in a bit. And so that's the level of Malchut. Then the next morning, we have the level of Zerampin, and that's the feast of Zerampin. That's, we hear the Torah reading, we get all the different prayers, and the way it's all structured is very specific. And if you think that it wasn't a Kabbalist who created, or the many people who created all of our prayers in Hebrew, they're all Kabbalistic. Every single one. I know they say don't study it. It's true. It's all Kabbalistic. Then you have Musaf, is Binah, is connected to the realm of Binah. That's the 3rd level of climbing up the ladder. Then you have, and I can explain that. Then finally, Mincha is the level of, one second. Mincha is the level of Chokhmah. And if you look at the things we do during Mincha are very different. The readings that we have are very different. And it's connected to this influx of wisdom, this influx of Chokhmah. And then finally, Ne'ilah, the final thing, the gate, the final gate, that's Keter. And it's the only time in the year that we go to this Keter in that higher realm. And it's all on this lofty level. That's Yom Kippur. When you understand that these are feasts, these are metaphysical feasts, it's a wonderful way to go through the holiday, the 25 hours. Lori, I'm sorry, what did you want to say?
I don't remember. No.
Sorry, I would have lost my train of thought.
At the beginning of the questions, what do you mean by metaphysical,
Beyond the
Yeah.
physical.
beyond physical?
That's what I mean, yeah.
That's what you mean, okay.
Yeah, like metaphor is, beyond
Beyond.
oracle.
You laugh at your own jokes.
Somebody's got to. Okay, so that gives you a sense of how in our daily prayer, in the way our prayers are constructed, during the year, the macrocosm comes into play. And you can see how Hesed is connected to Keter. Speaking Ze'erampin, small frame, to the larger frame, to the macrocosm. Gevorah to Chokmah, Tiferet to Binah, Netzach to Ze'erampin, Hod to Malchut. Now I forget who said that they do the Spirat HaOmer.
Yeah.
That was you. So Hod, why is Hod Sheve Hod Lag BaOmer? What, do you know what I'm talking about?
Kinda.
It's because it's a mini Malchut. Hod Sheve Hod,
Hod is a mini Malchut.
because Hod is the fifth.
Right.
I know this is confusing the hell out of a lot of people here. Hesed, remember, Hesed is in the frame of Ze'er Anpin, the small face.
Okay,
So it's number one, level number one. Gevurah is level number two, so that's gonna be not. Excuse me, to Chokhmah. Tiferet is connected to Binah. It's the beauty, it's the balance.
okay,
Binah is like an
I
energy
just
source.
want, yeah, okay.
Netzach is Ze'er Anpin in the grand sense.
This is what?
Netzach, which is number 1, 2, 3, 4, is the fourth world, which is Ze'er Anpin in the larger frame.
The air and P, what is that?
Ze'er Anpin means small face, and Ze'er Anpin is all
The big
six
one,
of
okay,
these,
gotcha.
all six of these combined. And then Hod,
Glory,
glory, is a mini Malchut. So the Hod, when we get to Hod Shebet Hod, which falls on the 33rd day, Rabbi Shimon's death anniversary.
I've never gotten all the way through all 49.
You know, booze helps. Standing on one leg.
On one foot.
Yeah. And then you say, well, wait a second, what about Yesod? There's a sixth one. There are 5 levels, and you said 6. Yesod, remember, I told you yesterday, Yesod is the gatherer. It doesn't have a personality of its own. Joseph just was a clerk. And that's the way we should be as channels of the light. We shouldn't put our egos into things. When a teacher gets angry because somebody wasn't, maybe he's putting a little of his ego into it. So, the Yesod is just a channel. It's just, so I'm here to do God's work. Whatever, it doesn't have to be a teacher, it could be a server, it can be a servant of Hashem. And that's the thing. So this, again, I don't expect you to all grasp all this stuff. This is an upload of information and wisdom into the computers, into your brains.
What do you do with the art?
With what?
DAAT, the art.
Da'at is, okay, so there's different ways people look at the Sphirot. Chabad likes to, so you'll notice that I left it blank here. I didn't even name it. I didn't even name it because my Chabad likes to talk about Da'at. The name of Chabad comes from Chokhmah, is the initials of Chokhmah, Binah, Da'at, Chabad. And, oh, sorry. And you need a cane to pull me off, right? Okay, I've been great. So I don't want to dwell on this because I know that I'll lose, I know I've lost a few of you on this, but don't feel lost. Please don't feel lost. I just want to introduce the concept to you. And again, it's going into the computer. The rust is coming out. And this is part of the process of learning Kabbalah. Kabbalah is, the frustration is a good feeling. Don't let it become like anger because I don't want to deal with that. Okay, moving on. So any questions before we move on? And again, if it's just confused, if there's any questions, specific questions, I'll answer them, but we're good? Good. Okay, moving on. Everybody happy so far?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Confused but happy.
What's that?
Confused but happy.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. Okay, so the letters, the Hebrew letters, it was written in the Book of Formation. So I mentioned that there are 5 levels. They're actually connected to different worlds. There was a wonderful movie that actually was a pretty lousy movie. But it was wonderful because it was the best thing. It was based on a Stephen King book called The Langoliers. Did you ever see this television movie from 1995? It was kind of low budget. But it explained the world of formation, which is the world immediately above the world of action, connected to Ze'er Anpin. It's because what happens is basically in this movie, it's a Stephen King book, and they made it into this cheesy TV movie. These people are on an airplane. About 10 people have fallen asleep. There's a big storm, and somehow they get caught in sort of like an interim liminal space dimension. And they're the only ones who are on the plane, and they're the ones, and they realized that they were all asleep, and somehow they're still there on the plane. And when they land the plane, it's like the world is being sort of taken apart to be reconstructed. It's almost like the world is created every minute brand new, and that's very Jewish.
That's very
It is.
Very Jewish, yeah, and it's a beautiful, and what I love about the movie is because it really illustrates this idea. The problem with them is that they're stuck as the world is, we've moved on from this stagnant moment of this world, and the Langoliers are these monsters that basically eat up and recycle like fungus, just eats up all the garbage and eats up the entire world, everything physical in the world. And so they're at this airport, nobody's in the airport, and somebody bites into a sandwich, they're hungry, and it has no flavor, and they wanted to spit it out because it has no energy. It's like an apple that's rotten, it doesn't have any of the spark of life in it, a body without a soul. And then they successfully go back into the airplane and go through the storm again, and then they're right before the world is born. The physical world is there, and they taste the sandwich, it has all the, like it's becoming more alive, and suddenly they hear birds in the sky. This is the world of formation. This is the world of formation. And when we pray, so we think, well, this is already set. No, nothing is set. Minute to minute, we can control our destiny if we have the mindset to do that. At least this is what the Kabbalists say. So this is the world of formation because it's being formed for us. This is the concept. The Langoliers. Interesting movie just to watch for that illustration. Because it's hard to understand these concepts. Metaphors are very frustrating in Kabbalah because and there's a great metaphor for this. It reminds me of the great Hasidic story about this famous archer who always got a bullseye, and the man goes to the archer and he says, "How is it that you're always that you always?" And so somebody goes to this rabbi and says, "How is it that you always have the perfect story to tell?" To explain something, perfect metaphor. This really reminds me of the story, he says. He says, there was once this archer who always got a bullseye. And so this man goes up to the archer. This is the rabbi telling the student, how is it you're such a good storyteller? And he goes up to the archer, how is it that you always get a perfect bullseye? And every time you shoot an arrow, it's very simple. I shoot for a tree and then I draw the bullseye around the arrow. And so this is the problem with metaphors is that they're great to explain a thing, but you mustn't get attached to the metaphor because the metaphor can only take you so far. It's a little bit like this metaphor. The metaphor is this. And remember the old rocks, the Apollo rockets, and I think they were in 3 stages, if I'm not mistaken. The big one was the big bottom part was all this fuel that got off of the earth and got us up to escape velocity at, 17,000 miles per hour.
Minute.
And that's like a metaphor. It gets us to a certain place, but then you have to drop that because it will just drag you down. So you drop that, that's like, and then you have the next stage that brings you to a certain place. But then you have to drop it down. And the thing is, people get fixated on the metaphor. Yeah, but you were saying God is like a salesman. He said, but a salesman, what you'd be angry with the person? No, yeah, but drop the metaphor of the salesman. He's no longer like a salesman. Well, but you just said he was like a salesman. Yeah, drop that piece of the rocket because you're going to lose the picture. So metaphors are tricky. You gotta be willing to give up the metaphor at a certain place. I hope that.
It was good.
I hope I shot the arrow well.
Yeah, that's.
It got a bullseye, right? Okay, so letters. Okay, so in the book of formation, that is probably one of the oldest Jewish documents that exists. We have tons of evidence of it. It's not that simple though, because there are several different versions and the way that they were combined and people taking things out. It's not a straight line how the book of formation. But it is attributed to Abraham the patriarch. Interestingly, the book of formation, you can look this up. Sefer Yetzirah, and it's a great book. It's hard to read though, very hard to read. It's called by Arya Kaplan. But if you go on Wikipedia, that'll probably be more helpful, to be honest with you, because it'll give you in one paragraph kind of what it's talking about. And in the Sefer Yetzirah, it says that 2,000 years before creation,
Really?
2,000 years I
I
know,
don't like that.
I know you don't like that.
I don't
Let the rocket go, let the metaphor go. It's
Yeah.
just hear the metaphor, because what it's meant, how can you have a year before a sun and an earth?
Right.
Exactly.
Before creation, what?
2,000 years, and why 2,000? I don't know. But spoiler alert, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know what the significance of 2,000 is. I don't know.
Even if it was 1 minute before creation, I'd be upset.
If
There's
you
no
said
time.
5 years
Nothing
before,
there.
I could
There's no
have fixed some sort of thing. I don't know. This is something I don't know the answer. I do believe that there is an answer. And I think we can know it because I don't think it just doesn't strike me as a secret. But 2,000 years before creation, the Hebrew letters existed. And they each had an energy intelligence. That this is a Kabbalistic principle, and this is a very deep Kabbalistic principle. It's very important to understand this, because when we read Hebrew, the holy language, we're connecting to chromosomes of consciousness. Trademark Robert J. Sherman. This is my expression. I don't claim, most of this information I do not claim. I've been quoted. Nobody ever gave me credit for the quote, but somebody, one of the rabbis in the Kabbalah Center really liked that when I came up with it. Maybe I wasn't the only one who came up with it, but I know I did come up with it. As my dad used to say, unique means that there's literally one, and whereas original, you can have several people be original and not plagiarizing, but anyways. So each of these letters has an energy intelligence that is a manifestation. And I say this to you as a group specifically, and I debated whether I was going to go into all of these really seriously lofty things today. I really did. This is why I was, even to the last minute, I was still deciding. And I thought I'd give it a shot, because you're getting a Sefer Torah. And, we never really, there's a thing, I'm going to take a little break from this to tell them what, and this is a sidebar conversation. Appreciation. What are the 2 words that cause the most sadness in the world? Ooh.
Love and death.
I deserve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What can you possibly do in this life to deserve the next breath you take? Nothing. There's nothing you can do to deserve the very next breath you take. Somebody, and if you can truly adopt that as a point of, as a truth, everything is a gift. Everything can be appreciated. Appreciate. That's amazing. I remember once I had an eyelash in my eye. It's horrible, and the pain. Just appreciate not having the pain of that. I can actually really appreciate just blinking because I had that pain. Appreciation. You can be a millionaire, but if you lose $5,000 in the stock market, you're miserable for a week. A bum walking on the street who hasn't ever finds a $5 bill. He's in heaven. And if you don't appreciate what you have, it is a Kabbalistic principle. I don't know where it's written, but I know that it is. If you don't appreciate what you have, you will lose it. In the physical world, you've already lost it. In the metaphysical world, it will trickle down into the physical world. So you must appreciate what you have. You must appreciate your health. You must appreciate your family. You must appreciate the money that you have. You must appreciation is the key. There are specific Hebrew prayers that we say for appreciation. I can tell you, I get very upset about things that are going on in my life, and this is going on, that. And there's one prayer that I use if I'm really feeling uptight. There are a number of prayers, and these Hebrew letters, these combinations of Hebrew letters are specifically designed by the Kabbalists to empower us. When you have your Sefer Torah, my challenge to you as fellow Jews. Have a minyan, make use of your Torah. Try to have the readings, and I don't mean to tell you what to do. Your own community needs to have your own needs, but this is a great privilege and a responsibility. You have the Torah, have regular readings. If you can't do it once a week on Shabbat, make sure that once a month or every 2 weeks, do it, use it, and I would encourage you to be part of the larger annual reading when you do that as well, because then you connect to everybody in the world. This last Shabbat was Shabbat of Shemot. I tried to bring that in as much for myself as for everybody else, because Shemot is the second of those 5 worlds. Shemot connects to Chokhmah, that blast of inspiration. And I didn't want to miss out on it, so I mentioned it to you. By my sharing, it flows through me, and I share it with you. But you can also be part of that thing. So I don't want to preach, I don't want to tell people what to do, but understand that each of these letters, when I first got into Kabbalah, I was about 18, 19. And I found this book at the Bodhi Tree, which was, I don't think it's still there, and maybe it is in Los Angeles. All the metaphysical books you can get, and it's a great place. Hope it's still there. And I found this book on Kabbalistic things. I'm very careful not to share Citric Torah. There's very little Citric Torah that I have anyways, but the thing is that one of the things you don't do is haphazardly invoke angels. Anybody who does that probably doesn't believe in Kabbalah, that it's real, because the problem with invoking angels haphazardly is that by doing so, or angelic forces, by doing so, you might get what you want. I remember once I escaped getting a ticket by doing this thing and said, got it. But then I got into a car accident. And seriously, and I could tell you 2 or 3 things that I said, oh my God, this is like, and that's what they say. You invoke an angel in the wrong way, he'll kick you. So one of the things, I understand one person was concerned that I might be like invoking magic things. No, it's my responsibility, and I take it upon myself not to do that, not to share the things. I know a little bit about how it's done, but I'm not an expert. And I don't do it. It's not something, however, we all do it. And I'll tell you how we do it, through the prayer books, because the prayer books were composed and compiled by Kabbalists who understood what was going on. So each of these Hebrew letters has power. Hebrew is the holy language, but there's another language that's infused into some of our prayers. And I was talking about this earlier. That language is called Aramaic. It is written in the Zohar that the language of Aramaic, and there are certain prayers that you've heard of, like we talked about, that are in Aramaic. Aramaic, this is how the archaic language says it, and it's spooky. It says, Aramaic is the language that the angel of death does not understand. Ooh, right. What translates to the 21st century, 2024? That means, what is death? Death is discontinuity. Death is discontinuity. Death is when you have a good relationship going, and then suddenly, bang, it's over. Death is you have money and then suddenly it's gone. Death is actually death. Death is a relationship death. Death is an emotional death. What we want is continuity in life. Most of us are fine as long as we can just be a little bit better. And when we build a thing, it doesn't get destroyed by the weather, right? The prayer of Kaddish, which is invoked many times, that's in Aramaic. It's not an accident that it's in Aramaic. Now, some commentators, including Jonathan Sacks, say, well, it was the lingua franca of the, I'm actually imitating Jonathan Sacks. His friends, it was the, if you know the way he spoke, you can turn him on YouTube. He was wonderful. But anyway, the Jonathan Sacks, it was the language of, and he's probably right on a Peshat level. It was the lingua franca, but there's a reason why Aramaic, Hebrew letters, by the way, it's all Hebrew letters. It's just slightly different spellings, slightly different pronunciations, and Aramaic is still a language spoken today, by the way. The Kurds speak Aramaic. It's more Arabized form of Aramaic, but I've known people that was their first language, Aramaic. The Zohar is written in Aramaic. Kol Nidre is in Aramaic. Kaddish is in Aramaic. Barik Shemea in Arabic. These are bridges in our prayers. Why do you need a bridge between? Because the prayers, Shachrit is the 5 worlds. You're going through the 5 worlds. It's like you're climbing a mountain, metaphorically speaking, climbing a mountain, and you cross one world. So, okay, so then he said, Amen. That's the Kaddish prayer in Aramaic. We're in the world of Zeranki, and then we're in the which is the world of formation. Now we're in the world. We start in Asya, the world of action. We climb up, and then at the top of the mountain is Shema Yisrael, the energy store, healing. Shema Yisrael is about healing. That's Bria, that's Binah. That's healing. That's why we're in that frame when we say Shema. And then we go to the Amidah, the highest level, which is not Ketzer because we're not at Rosh Hashanah time. We're in the level of Atzilut, which is Chokhmah, that world of Chokhmah, wisdom, the fusion of things. You're speaking to God, and you might get an answer at that moment. Very different thing than you're doing in healing. Very different thing than you're doing in formation. Asiyah is the morning prayers. Thank God for not making me a rooster. The different prayers are, and there's 18 of them. So. And I tried so hard to memorize them. I got a few of them. There isn't one that says God. There is one about a rooster, and it's the idea of separation of night from day. But anyway, it's one of the very early prayers. But they're amazing prayers, and if you look at them, they're not accidental. They were created. The prayers, and then you say, okay, so then you climb down the hill. Now you've got a treasure up at Chokhmah, this high, lofty level. You need a bridge. That's why you have a lot of Kaddishes. You remember from the Orthodox days, because you need to build a bridge between the worlds. The worlds need a bridge. Why do we need a mourner? Somebody who's lost somebody to be, and it's always at the beginning of the service and at the end. That's called the mourner's Kaddish.
Right.
Why the mourner's Kaddish? Because the mourner feels a lack. This is all about. This is the language that the angel of death does not understand. So you need this person who has this lack, who can truly be the vessel for creating a bridge between worlds. But you don't need that at the top levels because there is no lack. There's no separation. Remember, 10 luminous emanations, 9 of them illuminate by themselves. Only the lowest level, our physical world, the world of action, where we have these veils. So again, I don't expect you to memorize this, but I do think that to appreciate this is very, very powerful. And without appreciation, then you don't have it. You don't own it. You can have $1 million, but if you can have it Sefer Torah, and it's nicely in this box. You use it, and you understand that every time that book that I looked at, which I don't have anymore, by the way, because I know that it works. That's the problem, and I know that it kicked me every time. The angel, you create angels. All an angel. Let me explain what an angel is. We're going to discuss this a little bit more, but in a totally kosher way. Is how are we doing time-wise, by the way?
Can I ask a quick question back to the Kaddish?
Yeah.
Why is Kaddish only said when you have $1 million? Oh, I got thinking.
There's power to the number 10.
I know that.
I think the idea that if you can get 10, and this sounds like I'm making a joke, you can get 10 Jews to agree to a thing, it's very powerful. That's why it's important that you have a quote unquote spiritual meaning. No, I'm not making a joke about it.
That's good answer because I had a good.
And that's one of the good arguments for why they need to be in the same room. Although I actually think I'll be honest, I'm going to tell you something, and again, I'm not a rabbi. No rabbi will ever tell you that you can do this. But if I don't have 10 people, if I'm by myself,
You'll do it.
I bring them with me. I have a series of people who passed on, including our ancestors, our father, grandfathers, and I do men in the Dominion. By the way, men because they've got more ego. That's why. If you can get those men to agree, but they have less. I have enough disagreement with myself that I'm able. If I can calm that down, I feel comfortable with that minion.
Well, I think it's,
good to make it happen.
I think it was a mistake allowing women to be part of the minion because men don't tend to bond and make groups. Women do. We are very communal, the women. The men, one guy's gonna try to be the alpha. But
It's true.
So
This is why men have more of a cocoon.
that's why I think that the minion being all men, I don't want to use it, forces, I'll use that.
But I think for your group, if,
Well, yeah.
you should do what it's right for you.
Yeah, but I'm saying-
I'm not telling you,
but-
again, I'm not a rabbi and I don't
If the
know
minion
authority.
is all men, it behooves men to get together as equals and bond as a.
But it was never meant to be a superiority thing
No, I know,
or
that's
only
what I'm
men
saying.
have this power. Women, by the way, women can take cottage.
No,
It's just what do they count in a minion? Women should take cottage if they've lost somebody.
But I think it disserves the men to not have 10 men, because like you said, 10 men that can agree on something.
Yeah, even
So-
just being in the room and
Exactly.
making the cocoon to be there, you know.
10, you get 10 women together all the time.
Yes,
You know,
exactly. No, listen, I think you hit on a lot of important points. How
Yeah,
much time do we have? By the way?
you have 10 Jews in the room right now.
10 men,
I said 10 Jews.
I know we got 10 Jews, we've got a minion. But
So just,
anyway,
yeah, so.
personality, so I count for two.
There's one in every crowd, George. Two or three. So the Hebrew letters, now, 2,000 years before creation, before the world was created, before the Tzimtzum, the letters got together and Toph said, this is the book of formation. Remember, this is the world being created. That's why it's called Olam Olam Yetzirah, the world of formation, the book of formation. I'm sorry, is Sefer Yetzirah, written by Abraham Avinu, the high priest, the patriarch, Abraham. The reason that this, so again, these letters, they're creating the world. They're saying, and Toph says, well, I can do it, but the problem is that the world was created and it's too strict, and Toph is considered a very strict letter. The problem with the letter Shin is literally going backwards to the alphabet, and there's this whole dialogue, and it's a fascinating thing. It's worth looking for a couple books. If anybody's interested, I can find something that's readable. You need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I know it's and I don't mean to sound patronizing on it. I literally spent 30 years. I had the book Sefer Yetzirah by Aryeh Kaplan, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's so hard, and I mean I know all the terminology. That's the reason I couldn't do it 30 years ago. I looked at it might as well have been Greek. It would have been easier. And I wouldn't have been able to do it. So you had all of these different things. Now the letters have an energy intelligence. There are three basic categories of these letters. I was looking to see if I could find something on the internet on this. It's there. It's just, anyways. So you have three basic categories, and I don't expect anybody to remember these things, but I am going to have a handout, and I want to give you something practical to work with as well. So the idea is you have the elements. Now we think of 4 elements. Earth is not considered as one of these elements, probably because it's beneath Earth is very much connected to gravity. It's our physical thing. We're trying to rise above gravity. So you have air, which is olive. Shin, which is fire, you have mem, which is water. And think of mayim, which means water in Hebrew. Mem is the shoresh of mayim. That makes sense. Air, olive, and then you have the planets. Now, when they talk about planets, they're certainly not including Pluto because nobody knew. 2,000 years ago, there was no Pluto, and now apparently there is now.
it's emoted again.
I know, which is a shame. I love Pluto. But the planets that they're talking about, they include the sun and the moon. And the sun is Kaf, the moon is Toph. And then you have Mercury, which is Resh, and you have Venus, which is Pei, and then you have, they don't include Earth again, but they're looking at the planets. And so and then it goes all the way to Jupiter and Mars, and we also have Saturn. There's seven planets. So 7 + 3, and then you have 12 more. That's for the astrological signs. And so each month you have a planet that rules, and 5 of those, for 10 of those months, there are two, a planet rules 2 of those things. So for example, this month is the month we're currently in is Tibet, which is Capricorn. And so there is a planet, so for Tibet, you have the letter Ayin, which rules that astrological configuration. And think of what you know about astrology. Remember, astrology and astronomy are rooted in the same origins. The first was astrology, and they believed it had magical powers and this and that. I think anybody who knows a Scorpio, and I love Scorpios.
Oh, I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, there you are. Anybody who knows a Scorpio knows that there's something to astrology, is what I would say.
Something to what?
Something to astrology, because
Absolutely.
yeah,
Gemini too.
Gemini, oh,
Gemini?
no, she's an Aries.
Aries.
Yeah, and both Aries, and by the way, interesting, both Aries and Scorpio on Jewish astrology are controlled by the planet Mars, which the letter is Dalet. So, and I'm gonna give you a path, in fact, I might as well pass this out now. Now, there's 2 versions of this you'll see here that Les was kind enough to do. One you'll see has some English explanations. See how that has English there? And then there's one here that actually has the letters that we're talking about. And this is a very powerful Kabbalistic prayer. But give me, yeah, they're different and
She'll do everything.
there was one graph, one of these pages, you'll see that the letter that the explanations are in Spanish. I didn't, but it also, the Spanish one also has the letters of the month, including the astrological sign, and I wanted to give you all of that. We'll walk, Lori and Bev, if you can give me, say one for me, of both of them, so that I can read the prayer.
At least one for you.
This is a great prayer for any type of emergency, health, law, legal things, whatever. This is an absolutely fantastic prayer to have at your beck and call. It is in Aramaic. Remember, what did we say about Aramaic? Aramaic is the language that the angel of death does not understand. Okay, everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great, okay. So we'll get to this in a moment, but I just wanted to pass this out now. And you'll see, okay, so if you take a look at the one that's in Spanish, you see where the Latin letters, it says versos
Yeah.
do ano de doboco. I think that's maybe Portuguese, I'm not sure. So to that, now just a little primer on the Jewish calendar. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the solar calendar, the Christian or the Julian calendar is a solar calendar. Means we're exactly, it takes 1 year around the sun to have the thing.
Give it to
The Muslim, yeah, give or take, but the Muslim calendar is a lunar calendar. And instead of 365 days or 366 in a leap year, there are 354 days on a Muslim calendar because it's every new moon. The Jewish calendar, because we have to have it both ways, right? Is 2 for 1. It's a 2 for 1 deal. Ours is a lunar solar calendar. The reason for that, halachically, is because Passover, must fall in the spring. And as you know, Ramadan in the Muslim calendar always keeps on moving back, which is great in the winter because their fasts they have long nights and they can eat, at 7 in the morning. But in the summer, when it falls into the summer, cranky Muslims.
Just don't go for an hashtag calendar.
I don't do Aztec calendars. I don't do that.
Yes.
And I don't have 26,000 years to study it.
Yeah.
So that's a quick primer on this. And so what the Jewish, and we're doing it this year, by the way, is in order to rectify, because you lose roughly 11 days, 10 days, 11 days every year, because there's only 354 days, is 7 out of 9, they've calculated 7 out of 19 years, and it's a 19-year cycle, and then it repeats. They add 7 out of, it's just the math. They add an extra month.
Adar 2.
Adar Bet or Adar 2, that's right. And this year we have that, and that's considered very auspicious because it's a 13th month, and 13, unlike where some people think it's unlucky, 13 is considered very fortunate or, very auspicious. And we're about to go into a wonderful I love this every year, every 7 out of 19 years that it happens, because Shabbat is a very positive month. And then Adar, Aleph, and then Adar. We have 3 Hebrew months that are very, very positive. And we're coming out of a tough one with Tibet. Not impossible. It's not the worst of the months, as it were. And again, I'm not superstitious about these things. I think you can get great positivity in Cheshvan or in my birth month of Tammuz, which often has negative attributes. But the point is that we are coming into a positive frame, a very, very positive frame here. And I think it's okay to take a positive light on these things. So this prayer, Ana B'Koach, is a very, very powerful prayer. We're going to, in a couple minutes, we'll do I will lead you in a meditation on this so that you can understand how it's done. And basically, like all prayers, it is, in fact, this is a prayer that is actually sanctioned by the rabbis. There's no problem saying this prayer, but it is an invocation of angels, and I'll show you exactly how it is. All prayers are, Shema Yisrael is as well. But this is a very specific one, and I'll show you exactly what the visualization is, and the way angels appear and what have you. And again, all angels is a godly force, an aspect of God that is given, quote unquote, given wings, specifically 3 sets of wings. And I'll show you exactly how that's done. Okay, but and how to protect yourself so that we're not doing anything Sitrei Torah, which is the secrets of the Torah. We're not delving into that. There's nothing to be worried about here if you're inclined to worry that this is taboo. It isn't. This is a prayer. People all across America who aren't Kabbalists do this prayer. They just don't know what they're doing. No, they don't know. And again, if you don't appreciate what you have, then you don't have it. It's, so, and you'll stop doing it. You'll lose it. So that we're hoping to reawaken that. So that's that. Now I just want to give you 2 holidays that are coming up, a little bit of Kabbalistic insight on them, because it's interesting and because they're coming up, and so that you can have appreciation for that. Purim is coming up. It'll be interestingly, and anybody who thinks that the Kabbalistic calendar is not or excuse me, the Jewish calendar is not an astrological calendar, I'm here to show you that it is. Rosh Hashanah. By the way, Rosh, when we say Happy New Year, the Jewish calendar, it's very different than saying Happy Rosh Hashanah or Shana Tova. Why? Because Rosh, the word Rosh means head. Head is, things are concealed. We don't know what's going on. The brain is like the seed, right? The seed level, the seed of the seed, where the inspiration comes. Whereas a new year, big deal, new year, but the seed of the year. What do we say? What is one of the blessings? It's from Deuteronomy, if anybody knows. There's a blessing that you say, may you be the head and not the tail. Have you heard that?
No.
No, it's a common thing. It's I'm surprised coming from an Orthodox background, because they say one of the things they say, and it's from Deuteronomy, I want to say 28. I have it written down somewhere. Not because I knew that, but this morning I was looking it up. These are not things I can't usually quote verses. But it's a line from there. It says, may you be and you say that, Rosh Hashanah, may you be the head and not the tail. Also at Pesach, we have the head of because we want to connect to the seed level. The control is at the seed. When you don't, if think of a teenager goes to a party, he's going to be influenced by the people around him. If they're doing drugs, the kid's probably going to do drugs. If the kids are going to a Bible study and he likes the kids or she likes the kid, they're going to be doing something nice, hopefully. Or they'll be doing drugs in the Bible study. I don't know. Can't control kids, but the but you can tag them. So I think the point is what was Lot's mistake? This is Abraham's nephew.
Right.
His mistake was that he went into Sodom in the first place. Now he was the holiest man there. He was a big shot in Sodom, but he could have been a small shot in his uncle's shadow. But he says, no, I think I want to go down. And of course he paid the price, and he lost pretty much everything, and then, all the things that happened after that, wife became a pillar of salt, all of that, and the other stuff. So the point is that Lot is a great example. Control comes the seed of the seed. The seed of the seed, before you go into the place. Now, say, well, how do you do that? Say, before you walk into a meeting, I was trying to remember this, before I have an uncomfortable Zoom meeting, which Lori and John know, I have to do these things with lawyers and stuff like that. And, I say beforehand, I say, Light, please speak for me. I did that before I came in here, I wasn't nervous or anything, but I said, I don't want to be involved. Moses let God speak through him. That's why when Moses goes to God, you'll have to speak for me because I have a stammer, I have a stutter. So, I know I've given a good lecture when I can't remember a darn thing I said. That's what I felt on Thursday, and I had to look back at my notes and I said, did we say that? I don't remember. I don't remember. And I think it went pretty well. It's when you get your ego into things that, I don't have this isn't my wisdom. So Purim is a very powerful holiday. Purim it's actually one of the things I find very affirming in my faith, which is ironic because it's all about certainty. There's a very strange nation that appears the minute that the Jews leave Egypt. This is in the Peshat, this is right in the Torah. They leave Egypt, and there's a nation that just appears out of nowhere. They're a mysterious nation. We know what their genealogy is. They come from Esav. Esav has, Esav is the twin brother of Jacob. And Jacob, of course, is Israel. So this is the twin, this is the dark twin. And this is the grandson of Esav through his firstborn. But this is from an incestuous relationship, a woman named Timnah, who actually wanted to be a Jew. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob said no. And some commentators say this was a punishment for not letting somebody who truly wanted to be Jewish, not being a little bit snobby about it. It's great about our patriarchs. We see the flaws in our patriarchs. Commentators, we can appreciate them, but we also see their flaws. And Timnah had this son who was a product of incest, and his name was Amalek.
Oh, yeah.
Amalek, you may have heard modern commentaries say the Palestinians are Amalek, the Nazis were Amalek, and they may very well be. But it's interesting. So here the Jews, they were slaves to their desire to receive. We talked about this in Egypt, and now suddenly they've liberated themselves through, and they've reduced their desire to receive. They've eaten unleavened bread, which means a restriction on desire. They've come out of Egypt, and they're in this position. It's like anytime we start something new, you know what? I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna start a new business. This is like coming out of Egypt. Before I was a slave to my fears and a slave to the old boss. No, I'm gonna do this new venture. And what happens? This nation of Amalek just appears. Now I love this. This is Remez level. Okay. Amalek is the gematria, the numerical value of the Hebrew word safek, means doubts and uncertainty. You start something new.
IBM. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. IBM used that, the people that didn't want IBM computers.
Oh, really?
FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Oh, really? Well, and this will all, whenever you have a new venture, you're gonna get this infusion of, I can't do this. That's what happened with the Jews. And then what happened was there was a very interesting thing that people are very upset about. As you know, in the Old Testament, it says there's all of this judgment and strong things, but you have to understand this is a code book. There's a thing that there's a statement in halakha, which is very, very mundane. It's the rules, right? Just the rules, the laws. It says anyone who takes the Torah literally alone, only literally, it's as though they're taking the drug of death. Ooh. You can't just take the Torah literally. That's from the halakha. It's not from some Zoharic lofty thing. It's from the halakha. And this is what is like the drug of death. They say God says, when you kill the nation, it says this to King Saul, when you kill the nation of Amalek, Amalek will keep on coming. Remember Amalek and what they did to you, and don't forget. It repeats itself. It has this weird thing because we're likely to forget. Doubts and uncertainty will come. When they say kill Amalek, and don't leave any of the crops, and don't leave any of the people, the women and the children, cut everything down, kill everything. It sounds horrible. It's not talking about a people. We don't even know we don't even know if these people physically existed. There's no evidence. There's no archaic, there's no record of them other than the Bible itself. It's because it's not talking about Amalek. It's talking about doubts and uncertainty. Just move forward. Just move forward. You got the Egyptians behind you. You've got the Red Sea in front of you. You've got all these people. Just move forward. Fight Amalek. Fight your doubts and uncertainty. I love that. I mean, I love the fact that 3,300 years ago, they were doing this interesting wordplay. I mean, just linguistically, it's fascinating. King Saul, the first king, his mistake, the reason he could no longer be king was because he left one person alive, the king, Agag, overnight. What did Agag do? As all nasty kings would do in a jail cell, he found some woman, got her pregnant. Then he was killed the next day, and then Saul got his you can't be king. He wasn't killed. Saul wasn't. They killed Agag. He was the king of Amalek. And that child would have a child of his own, Saul, by the way, do you know what tribe Saul came from? He was a Benjaminite. And why that's significant is because Amalek's great-great-grandson was Agag, King Agag. King Agag's great-great-great-grandson was a man you may have heard of, has a hat named after him, named Haman, the Hamantash, right? And the triangle hat. And fashion statements. Yeah. Well, the Kabbalists don't use a grogger, by the way. We meditate on a three-letter combination of special meditation, Kaf He Taf. It's one of the 72 names of God. I can remind you when it comes time for, or somebody can write it down, but that's actually, you can do a grogger, that's fine. Nobody's, the letter Kaf, which looks like a backwards C.
I'm just writing it like,
Yeah, Kaf, C-A-F. Hey, but for horses.
got it?
And Taf, well, you have horses, you know. And that letter, Taf, not Tet, Taf. And you meditate, when you hear the name Haman, you meditate on, you see the letters. You don't say it out loud. You just see the letters and meditate on that. And that's removing the power of Haman, the power of Amalek, the power of uncertainty. If you look at the story of Purim, that's the power that's being infused into you is the idea of certainty. And if you look at all of the stories that lead up to it, you know, we have all of these Haftorahs that are specifically leading up to the moment of Purim. Purim is about removing uncertainty from your life. And they say that Purim, that after Mashiach is here, all of the holidays will be annulled. We don't have to do them except for Purim. And what do we do on Purim? We're supposed to have a little bit of alcohol and just sort of feel joy and dance around and feel joy. That's what Purim is. And even the most holy day, Yom Kippur, Yom Kippurim means a day, Yom, like Ki Purim, a day like Purim. But we said, well, wait a second, Purim, but Yom Kippur, we don't eat. Remember, you have 5 feasts. You have 5 feasts, and you should get drunk on Yom Kippur. It's just a metaphysical thing. It's a day like Purim. That's how powerful Purim is. So that's Purim. Thought I'd give you that insight Kabbalistically. Pesach is a month later, exactly 1 month later. Notice, Purim happens on the full moon. Pesach happens on a full moon. Sukkot happens on a full moon. Rosh Hashanah happens on a new moon. Tu B'Shvat happens on a full moon. Tu B'Av happens on a full moon. But we have certain holidays that happen and Rosh Hashanah comes to mind. I'm trying to think. We also have Zot Hanukkah falls around the new moon of Tibet, but it's not really connected. I'm trying to think what else happens on a new moon, I'm not sure what, but we have Rosh Chodesh every month.
Yeah.
And the reason we do Rosh Chodesh, because that's the seed, that's where we can control the month. There are 3 specific connections, moments of connection that we have for that. And on Pesach, which is on the full moon. So I told you before, this is an astrological calendar, largely astrological. So make no mistake, Kabbalists were astrologers. And Judaism, conventional Judaism is astrological. Pesach is about liberation. It's different. It's the idea of being liberated from our slaveries. Our slaveries aren't to people. They're addictions to our fears, to things, to money, to desires. And so Pesach, there's wonderful connections. Another gematria, wonderful gematria. My favorite thing, actually, in the whole thing. Are you familiar with the Hillel sandwich?
Yeah.
Where you take the maror and you take the
Yeah.
different things. Maror, which is the bitter herbs, horseradish. The Kabbalist makes a real fool of himself on Pesach. Because you're not supposed to just swallow it down, the bitter, the horseradish, you're supposed to chew on it. You're supposed to feel the taste of death. Where does that come from? The taste of death. Why? Maror, mem, resh, vav, resh. Yeah, 446. Mem is 40, resh is 200, vav is 6, and resh, the final resh, is 200 again. So that adds to 446. Is the same gematria as the word mavet. If you can taste the death right there, taste it, you can remove death for an entire year.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
And we make it cool, but you don't just chew it down. You're supposed to taste it. You're supposed to feel the bitterness. You're at the moment, and it's a moment. It's exactly the opposite time of the calendar where there's a lot of connections like this. Yeah, but that's my favorite one. And I don't want to inundate into everything on this because I do know we have to bring this to a close. And I want to close with the Anava Koach prayer. Because it's a very powerful prayer, and this gives you something practical to go home to potentially use and study. So Pesach is this ability to go beyond. It's the time when you can organize. What do you have? You have a Seder. Seder means order, just like the word Siddur, the order of prayers. A Seder, you're putting your life in order, but you're doing it from a point of view in a soft way of judgment. Legal, that's why it's legal cases. They say, it's like put the right arm of God, putting it, so there's a wonderful lesson about the right arm of God giving you a hug. That means mercy, right? Right arm. This is the left arm of God. So this is but it's God. He's embracing you. He's saying, here, put your life in order. Order, discipline. That's Gevurah. So that's the power of Pesach. Most people with Pesach, what are they trying to do? This is what we always did. I always liked it, matzah. We have a little thing here, and I would encourage you to try and do Pesach for the week because it's a very powerful thing. The whole idea is to remove the intense desire of bread. Try and keep it to matzah. So I just leave you with that. And now, if we can turn to the final thing here, which is the Anava Koach prayer. I mentioned that this is the invocation of angels. Now, you'll see here on the one with Portuguese writing that on the far right, you see the month that it says mes, which I think means month, so it must mean month. And Tevet is the month we're currently in. Next month, which starts, I think, on Thursday, is Shabbat. So now it will show, you'll see it says Capricornico, that's Capricorn. By the way, I don't know if you knew this, but Capri, the Isle of Capri, there were a bunch of goats.
Oh.
Capricorn means a horned goat. Corn is horn, and Capri is a goat. So I never knew that. I thought that was really cool. So I'm sharing that with you. You probably all knew. Okay, so and then you see that there's in a bigger, it says letra planeta. That means the letter for the planet. So it says Saturn is the planet of the month. So you have an astrological sign, and you have the thing. So now this first day, because today is Sunday. It's probably already into Monday because I think the sun is already down. Or maybe not, I don't know.
So not yet.
Not yet? Okay, great. So we're still in Sunday. So notice that this is the first sentence. There's 7 sentences, 7 days of the week. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say these 6 words, okay? And it's gonna be, we're gonna say them like this. Ana bekoa, gedulat yemenecha, tatir tserura. Okay, and if you look at the other handout, which looks very similar but doesn't have the letters, you'll actually see that it, I don't think I have that here, but anyways, if you look at that, it will have the English transliteration as well. And the reason you do that in the 2-word couplets is because if you say anabakwak, you're creating wings here, you're creating wings here, and creating wings on the feet. No, so I'm sorry, it's wings here, wings on the waist, and wings on the feet. One of the reasons, when we pray the Amidah, we stand with our feet together is because we're mimicking angels. And we should also hold our hands in our prayer book like this, because because that's the way the angels are created. And the wings, and again, it sounds like I'm talking about physical angels. No, these are metaphysical, never need to see my, it's pretty fixed.
Just people watching.
Yeah, I think it was one person are watching. So the idea is that we're giving wings to these angelic possibilities. Now, what is that first sentence accomplishing? And what it's accomplishing is if anything is already manifest in your life that you're not happy about, this sentence removes that, its potency. It's like it's not there. Very, very powerful. So that's the idea. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And the one the one that has this in English gives that explanation on the side. Do you have that one?
Yes.
Okay, good,
Yes.
good. So you have
Removal of time, space, and motion, removing the negative influence of physical matter
a physical matter. Perfect. Yeah, that's really
and
what.
unconditional love.
Yeah, the unconditional. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Some of the language and things has been watered down over the years. I got this off and so listen to what I'm saying on this stuff because I'm giving you the kind of the real stuff on this. So what we'll do is we'll do those things and then we'll meditate as well on the letter Ayin for Capricorn and meditate again, the idea that we want to yield the positive energies of Capricorn. And then there's not enough time to describe each of the astrological signs and what their positive attributes are. But you can meditate on that. And then we have the letter Bet. Are you pulling me off stage?
No.
Oh, okay. What is the first one?
X marks the spot.
Oh, I'll never remember it.
You're tired of mistake.
And so you have so meditate and see the light flow into the letter Ayin, and then the letter flow into the planet Saturn. Saturn is oftentimes connected to people call it karma, past lives, and the idea is that it should be easier for you. So you see the bet filling with light. I have to also point out, and it's a very important thing, because this was a sin of our ancestors. We do not pray to planets. We do not pray to astrological signs. They are just configurations that are they work kind of like we don't pray to angels either, but we can invoke these. These are aspects of God. We only pray to God. We don't have an intermediary, but we can draw the light through these planets because they do have influence, but it's God who is the real intervener. We have a personal relationship with Hashem. Okay, so, and then we'll just continue with the next sentences. Now, the actual Anaba Koach prayer is not these words. They are the acronym of the first letter of each of these words. So if you look at the end of the sequence, you'll see that it's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and then Yud, Tav, Sadi. But you don't try and pronounce that. You just look at it. So it'll be like this. We'll say, Ana bekoa gedulat yemenecha tatir zerura. And then look at the Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Yud, Tav, Sadi. And then look at the Ayin. And think of Capricorn and that this month should be positive and good things and everything you want. And the same thing with Bet and the planet. I actually usually see my visualization, this is just me. So I see all that light coming from all those stars in Capricorn, shooting into Saturn and then shooting down and then channeling that energy. And this is very important, channeling it to the world, to those who love, channeling to everybody. So that's the way I see it. Then we move on to the next sentence, which is for Monday. And so like you would spend a little more time on the Monday one, but we don't have to because everything is on the first line, the planet, the astrological sign, and the day of the week. So then we would say, Kabbalah Rinat, Amecha Sadvenu Taharenu Nora. Then look at those 6 letters. You don't have to look long. Just imagine the light coming through them. And you'll notice also that each one of these 7 sentences is connected to one of the 7 planets. And then we go to the next line. And you'll see what the significance and the power of that sentence is. Kra-Satan, those are the initials, right? Kra-Satan means to tear up the Satan, the Satan, the negative energy. So anything, so the first thing is anything that's already been manifest. The second one is any small gates that are open. That's another word. Kra-Satan is small gate. There, if you mix the letters over, small gates. Close those negative, the small gates of negativity. That's the second sentence. The third sentence, Nagibor, Doshei Kudecha, Kivavat Shamrem. The first part is for sustenance, for financial sustenance. Negad, Nun Gimel Dalet is adds up to the number 57, which is Zan. It's sustenance, it's abundance. And then you have Yud Chav Shin, which could somebody tell me what that tells you to do with the Yud Chav Shin? I can't remember. Okay. You have the English? This is the third sentence. Is that what it said? Yeah.
People, those are the silver.
And so now, and then the fourth sentence is Barchem Tarem Rakames Katecha Tamid Gamlem. This is for immortality. This is for this is connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. Remember, we talked about Bila Hamalach Netzach, immortality, and the idea that victory over death forever. The fifth sentence has to do with clairvoyance, being able to see what's going on in the world and having sort of a sixth sense. And that's Asim Kadosh Barot V'chana Hila B'Techa. Again, we do it in couplets. I didn't just then, but and then the second to last one is Yahid Ge'ela Machapene Zokrek Dushatecha Yud Gimelamet Pei Zayin Hu. Meditate on that, and that's for communication skills and other things. I don't know what your paper says. And then Shabbatenu Kabel Ushmat Zakatenu Yodeh Talmud. Again, this is for manifestation. It's Malchut. And then we have the final sentence here, which we also say during the Shema Yisrael, which is a manifesting sentence. And we say it quietly, just like we do with the Shema Yisrael. So without any further ado, and I know that there's a lot of information here, what I'd like to do is lead us all in the prayer. And if you're comfortable, so get into a comfortable position, and we're going to say the prayer. Remember, 2 words at a time. I'll say it first, and then you repeat it. Anav bekoa. Gedulat Yemenecha Tatir Serura. Meditate on the Aleph Bet Gimel Yud Tav Sadi. See the light filling up those letters. Now meditate on the ayin for the letter for the astrological month of Capricorn, Idin. You may remember the song Hagad Yah from Pesach. That's about a goat. The word kid is from Gad, G-A. That's the same word. K and G are cognates in linguistics in the Mediterranean. And then you have the letter ayin, which is for the goat. I always think of the ayin. I remember it's the ayin because it looks like he has a little goatee hanging from the bottom there. Meditate on that. Draw the light through Capricorn, and then see Shabbat, Saturn, and the bat. I remember that because it kind of looks like the top half of Saturn, with the rings, and that's the base of the bat. It's just my own little visualization. And draw the light through those, and then draw to yourself. But remember, you're receiving for the sake of giving to others. You must reflect the light. You must give the light. Let it flow through you in order to, if you just pray for yourself, the prayer will have no power. But if you pray for yourself so that you can give to others and that you're giving to others, then it has a chance. So that's the first sentence. Now we're going to do the second sentences. Repeat after me. Kabel rinat, amecha savenu, taharenu nora. Now meditating on the actual letters of the Anavakwa, which is the actual prayer. They sometimes call this, by the way, the 42 letter name of God. And that's because these are the 42 letters that you see. The 7 sentences and there's 6 letters in each one. That's 6 times 7, 42. That's not including the Baruch Shem Kavoda, as you can see, but it's that final sequence there. So look at the Reish Ayin, Sin Tet. Remember, you're putting angelic wings. You're giving wings to this energy. That you're removing whatever type of negativity there is. The small gates, the little negatives, the little thing you left undone, the little thing you said. Just that power is being, just the light is filling up and all of that negativity is gone. Meditating on the 3rd sentence, moving on. Na Gibor, Dorshei Yukadecha, Kevavat Shamrem. Meditating on the Nun Gimel Dalet for financial sustenance. We've closed the negativity. Now we can bring in positivity, financial sustenance. You can even hold your hands in a cup like you're drawing down light into your hands. And the idea is sustenance for that you can also share that sustenance with others. And then Yud Chav Shin. Next sentence. Barhem Taharem Rachamei Tzidkatecha Tamid Gamlem. This is the fourth sentence, and it's connected to Bila Hamavet Lanetzach, victory over death forever. And you meditate on the Bet, Tet, Reish, Sadi, Ta, Gimel. Meditate on that. See the light coming, pouring into the black letters. The black absorbs light, like black pavement absorbs heat and light, whereas white pavement, it reflects it. It absorbs into this, and then you reflect it. You are the reflecting element proactively. And now we do the next sentence. Hasim Kadosh, Verov Tuvecha, Nahel Adatecha. And meditating, this is for clairvoyance, being able to see what's going on, see between the lines and subtext. That's Chet Kuf Bet, Tet Nun Ein. Meditate, see the light flow through those. And that's also connected, that sentence is connected to Venus. But again, we do that stuff in the other months, where we spend time on that. The next sentence, Yachid Ge'eh, Lamcha Pene, Zokre Kedushatecha, Yud Gimel Lamed, Pei Zayin Kuf. Meditate on that. Remember, this is connected to Yesod. This is the channel. This is the culmination, the Zerampin, Joseph, the idea of disseminating. You need to, for this prayer to work, you must be channels. We don't create the light of God, but we can channel the light of God. We can be co-creators with Hashem. This helps us do this. Final sentence before the Baruch Shem. Shabbatenu kabel. Ushma sakatenu. Yodea talumot. Meditating on Shin Kuf Vav Sadi Yud Tet Tav. Excuse me. And this is manifesting this powerful prayer. This is the prayer that if you're really in a crisis, say this prayer, and you memorize it pretty quickly. And then we silently manifest all of those 42 letters. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. And close your eyes when you say it if you want. And that is the Anavakoch prayer. I wanted to give you something practical, not just intellectual, so that if you want to do that, it's a great thing to add to your service if you don't already. So there you are. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody here who's made me so welcome and been so gracious with me, especially, but really honestly, I have to thank Lori and John more than anybody because they pitched me on this thing and, and they had no idea whether I did this well or not, and I hope I did well.
Yes, you did.
I'm only worried. I was only worried when Lori said, no, he's not really my brother. I must not be doing so well. Okay, thank you very much. If there's any questions, I'm here for a few minutes and then we have to skedoodle off. But if you have me back, there's plenty more. I think you figured out that I can talk for a while. So, and I'm happy to do that. I'd be delighted to come back if you'll have it.